If you think ethics and integrity are important, I think most Canadians would be stunned at the fact you'd have to say 6 strikes and you should be out. We're still here, 6 strikes in, on the Speaker of the House, over and over and over again, as the Liberal MPs mock and just say, why not 10? They have such a low bar they've set for themselves that we are here again today. Again, the Speaker has been in the role, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, for 8 months, and there are numerous examples, time and time again, of this Speaker being incapable of being neutral, impartial, and nonpartisan. Let me talk about those 6 strikes from my perspective, if I could. We're aware of what happened late last year. The Speaker had extremely poor judgment to record a video in the Speaker's office, in his Speaker's robes, talking about, at the Ontario Liberal Party Convention, doing a video praising another Liberal. Completely unacceptable. Further, the second strike was the Speaker did an interview cited in his role as Speaker in the Globe and Mail regarding Mr. John Fraser, that he paid tribute to by video, when he did an interview at the Globe and Mail that referred to the Ontario Liberal Party as our party. Completely unacceptable, and just common sense not to do that as a Speaker of the House. Those first 2 were bad. If that wasn't bad enough right in that time frame, the Speaker decided, when the House was sitting, nearly unheard of for the Speaker of the House of Commons to leave the country even when the House is sitting, let alone under a cloud of scandal and calls for his resignation, debate about his future, takes a trip to Washington, D.C. And that was poor judgment, to leave the country, not just when the House was sitting, but when he's under a cloud of investigation, scandal, criticism, and calls for his resignation. You'd think that'd be enough. Goes on. Gets to Washington, D.C., as Speaker, goes to a private retirement party for a friend instead of being in the House of Commons, and gets caught on video talking about his partisan Young Liberal of Canada history and how great those times were back in the day, celebrating his Liberal roots. Literally, while he's under calls for his resignation for time and time again, not showing impartiality, showing bias, and showing partisanship towards the Liberal Party. But that's just number 3 of the 6 strikes we're now at, Madam Speaker. Number 4, there were photos that came out right around the time that Proc finished their investigation that the Speaker attended a Quebec Liberal Party fundraiser locally just across the river. When you're a Speaker, don't go to partisan fundraisers for other political parties of any other provincial jurisdiction, federal. Don't do it. That's just been the common sense consensus of every Speaker we've had in this country for over 150 years. Strike again. Now we get to where we are, where the Speaker, knowing the amount of criticism that has been lobbed rightfully against him, gets caught now using language on an invitation to a partisan Liberal fundraiser for himself, using such partisan language it would make the member for Winnipeg North blush probably. Not just by accident to do all of this. Madam Speaker, here's the thing that's interesting. After all of what I've just laid out before, the Speaker promised, because the NDP propped him up, this will never happen again. I will put procedures in place to make sure this will never happen again, and I will be completely impartial. This was just a rough start. I want a new slate to do it all over again. You would have thought that the Speaker would have gone back to his riding association as he organized fundraisers and thought, maybe we should watch the way we word our invitations. I'm not one to give free political advice to anybody on the other side of the aisle, particularly when it comes to fundraising. Nobody forced the Speaker to have that fundraiser. But he promised to have procedures in place that would never happen again. He could have simply mailed a letter out from the president of his riding association and say, our Speaker is busy being the Speaker and should be nonpartisan, so I'm John Smith, the president of the Hull-Aylmer Liberal Association, donate $100 to help out our local candidate in the next election. Free advice, it wouldn't have got him in trouble. Nope. Goes and puts an event, and here we are again, time and time again. That was strike number 5, Madam Speaker, and I'm not done yet. 6th strike was today. I'm a member of the House and Procedural Affairs Committee. The Speaker appeared today to talk on the topic of violence and harassment prevention policies of the House, PROC, Board of Internal Economy, and so forth. And when the member from Calgary Nose Hill had an exchange with the Speaker about his past, his judgment, and his actions of being overly partisan, it was on the floor of the House of Commons that the Speaker wrongfully defended the Prime Minister when he was not accused but admitted to elbowing the chest of an NDP MP. What frustrated me, Madam Speaker, is I sat and watched in that room what the Speaker said. In response to the member from Calgary Nose Hill calling out and saying the Speaker questioned her integrity and her events of the story, literally mocked her on the floor of the House of Commons minutes later and suggested she took a dive reminiscent of something in the World Cup. He was called out for it. In the committee today, anybody can go and watch the exchange. He said, quote, "I can tell you that I never questioned Ruth Ellen Berceau's accounting of the situation," unquote. He literally stood up on the floor of the House of Commons, and it was infamous because he mocked her. The Prime Minister had to apologize. The Speaker never did. And here he was today when he was confronted about that situation. I'm going to be careful the words I use in the House so I don't get point of order. What he said in his response was completely false. Go back and watch what he said that day only a few years ago. People can go back and watch the footage from the cameras in here. Strike number 6. And guess what? For 150 years, this country's had now the 38 speakers. The current speaker is the 38th. Not saying they've all been completely innocent. There have been blemishes. There have been issues. But to have a speaker have so many accusations of being partisan, of poor judgment, showing bias, and not being neutral and impartial, to have a couple strikes is not good. Some say 3 strikes, you're out. We're at 6 strikes. This Speaker has not been here for 8 years. He's been here for 8 months. We've had speakers that have served, Peter Milliken was raised earlier, for about 10 years. He didn't have 8 issues that go on and ethical violations in a matter of 10 years. This Speaker's got 6 strikes against him from what I've outlined here tonight in 8 months. Who's the common denominator, I think, needs to be the question. We've gone through, we've had Liberal MPs go on to be Speaker before with success in being able to balance. And I'm not one, when the Speaker ran for the chair, there's the tradition that you get drug in by the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition. Dragged to the chair is that tradition. That's been the fun part that everybody sees on TV. But nobody forced the Speaker to run in the first place. He didn't ask me for my opinion. Probably better that he didn't. But maybe I kind of wish that he did, because I would have told him, I don't think you're the best fit for this job, because if it's an ethics committee, public accounts over the years, time and time again, he was constantly unflinching in his constant defense of the Prime Minister and the Liberal Party, no matter what. It was a recipe for disaster to have a Speaker on the chair that can be respected, command the respect of the House, and allow us to get to the business. We are here tonight not because of Conservatives. We are here because the Speaker over and over and over again has violated the trust, violated the code that for 150 plus years has not resulted in issues. The simple thing we'll say again, Madam Speaker, it is time for the Speaker to resign. Let's put a new Speaker in this chair, one that could unite the House and focus on the democratic importance we have in this chamber.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary at the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, the member
does his best in terms of trying to talk about these great offenses. And one of the offenses he talks about is the fundraising issue. The Conservative Party House Leader was the Speaker, Madam Speaker, and he actually...
If members have something to contribute, they should wait till the appropriate time. I don't know how many times we have to repeat that in this House. Members have been here for a long time, and so I'll ask the honourable member to start over, and hopefully he won't be interrupted. The honourable member for the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. The opposition House Leader was the Speaker of the House. Not only did he have fundraisers as the Speaker for himself, he also had fundraisers for other members, at least one that we're aware of. Now, they do all sorts of hokey-pokey stuff on it, Mr. Speaker, but the bottom line is you have to take into consideration the twists and the turns that the Conservatives consistently use to try to present some sort of a picture that is not accurate. My question to the member is, why does the Conservative continue to want to try to demonstrate the parliamentary precinct is dysfunctional when the only thing that's dysfunctional is the Conservative Party of Canada, better known as the Reformers?
Dundas, South Glengarry.
Typical Liberal response. It's everybody else's fault but theirs. 6 strikes I outlined in my speech. The video that he made, the comment in the Globe and Mail about the Liberal Party being our party, his trip to Washington, D.C. and talking about his history in the Young Liberals of Canada, attending a Quebec Liberal Party fundraiser across the river when he was Speaker, the invitation that went out that was completely inappropriate and over the top, and then his shameful comments that he made today, completely distorting the reality of what he said, and again, attacking the integrity of an NDP MP. The NDP has no problem propping him up. Which 6 of those are wrong? None of them. They all happened, and they continue to give him more chances wrongfully. He has zero reason to give up the chair if that's going to be the attitude of the Liberal Party. The more strikes they have, the more they seem to love him.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Member for New Westminster, Burnaby.
Thanks very much, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate when that member speaks, but to say that we're going to blame the Speaker for something that was a fault committed by the Liberal Party of Canada, I absolutely cannot agree with that. It was a post that was done in complete disrespect.
Once again, order. I want to remind members that I know that whoever is going to be answering the question is very capable of doing so. That individual won't need any help. And I would just, again, remind members, if they have questions and comments, to please wait till the appropriate time. Otherwise, you know, it's using up some of the time that those members may want to ask a question and won't be able to be recognized. The Honourable Member for New Westminster, Burnaby.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The Liberal Party of Canada showed disrespect to the Speaker. Yeah. The Liberal Party of Canada showed disrespect to the institution of Parliament. And so for the Conservatives to point the finger at the Speaker when the Speaker did not authorize and had no knowledge of what the Liberal Party was posting on its website is passing strange. It's a denial of due process. Now, of course, we know that this debate is holding up an important debate that the NDP has initiated around pharmacare. And for that member in his riding, there's about 18,000 people in his riding that will benefit from the pharmacare provisions that help people with diabetes. About 25,000 people in his riding will be helped by the provisions around contraception. And the Conservatives seem to want to prolong this debate rather than simply allowing that debate on pharmacare to take place. Will the member recognize that due process means, now that we know the facts, that the Conservatives...
So I've been trying to give the Honourable Member a signal. I do want to allow the Honourable Member to respond. The Honourable Member for Stormont Dundas, South Glengarry.
I would argue, I feel like I have a pretty good pulse on the thoughts of people in Stormont, Dundas, South Glengarry. I think there's about 100,000 people that want to have an election so Canadians decide on all the issues that the NDP keep talking about, and more importantly, the NDP constantly propping the Liberals up. The member that just spoke, the House Leader for the NDP, was at the PROC meetings when we made the report on the first set of ethical violations and poor judgments of the Speaker. They said, we will make sure that this never happens again, and if he does anything further, he's going to have to resign. Here he does it? Oh, it doesn't count. It does count. The Speaker knew. Was he going to randomly just show up at this fundraiser by accident the night that it happened? No, the Speaker knew he was going to be at a fundraiser for his riding. He was going to be speaking at it. It was his choice to host all of this, and he should have, knowing the history only months ago, he should have had better control and processes to make sure this didn't happen. Poor judgment, shouldn't have done it, and the NDP got to stop propping him up and just giving him free rein to keep committing these multiple ethics violations.
Here, here. Well.